know that 3 weeks ago, Jesse, the New York Times. Now, I know you don't read the New York Times.
I read the New York Times,
know,
Bill. I'm an adult.
I know.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Alarmist Conspiracy Theories and Coffee. I do not have a cup of coffee today. I apologize. But I'm still energetic like I've had a cup of coffee, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Today, we have an amazing guest, the legendary Bill Boggs, who has done so much in the world of entertainment. I'm thrilled to have him here today. He has a new book, which he's going to talk about. He's been doing so many different things in the entertainment world that I think half the viewers need to know about. And we're going to get into that today. Let's bring on Bill Boggs and let's get into it.
Good to be with you. There's the book. Look, I happen to have a copy.
That's
right
it.
In my hand. Yes,
Tell the audience what the name of this book is.
This is The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog, as told to Bill Boggs. Look, daring, politically incorrect humor. How about that? Politically incorrect.
All right. They want to read the book, Bill. They don't want to eat the book.
It's a satire. And
so tell us, how did this come about? Why Spike?
Well, that's a big, the idea came, the last TV show I had was on PBS called My Generation. The thing went off the air about 4 years ago. And I just decided that I wanted to return to writing. This happens to be the third book I've written. They've all been published by major publishing houses. It's not a self-published book. And the first book was a novel that was actually sold, optioned as a screenplay. The movie never got made, but the novel, they liked it enough. And the second was a self-help book. So basically what happened was I decided, you know what? I've been chasing jobs on television for 45 years. I've had 15 different shows, TV shows. I've worked as an executive producer. I'm going to focus on writing now, not necessarily for the rest of my life, but that's what I decided. And so I had an idea. I can't remember, the moment that I got the idea, which frequently I can. And the idea was that I had a dog who was extremely funny, comical dog, an English Bull Terrier, white dog. Oh, like this kind of dog. I had a dog like this. I had there. This actually.
I love the props, Bill.
This
I
is
love
the official Spike the Wonder Dog Bank. The first person.
So does he poop money?
100. If you buy 100 copies of my book, you get a free bank.
Oh, hey, I wish I had some money to put in it.
So the dog was really funny. The dog had been on my show in North Carolina, Southern Exposure, before I came to New York. And I thought, but he got killed. He got run over by a drunk driver right in front of me. So what happened was, that was a long time ago. What if Spike, who was a huge star on my show, Southern Exposure, he got 5 times as much fan mail as I did. What if he hadn't gotten killed? And he had come to New York in today's world with a talk show host, like I have been a talk show host, and became a huge star. And what would the price of fame be? What would the transition from being in a little market in North Carolina to New York, the very arc of my own career.
Wow.
And as soon as I started writing it, Jesse, the voice of the dog, meaning as a fiction writer, my central character came through me, and I knew I had something.
I want to. You mentioned earlier in your commentary about your career. Tell the audience who optioned that screenplay. You had a book called At First Sight, and I've seen your talk show Confidential. Who was the major star that option? Because I think it's pretty amazing, and I never knew this until I recently did a little research.
Who was the major star of what, Jesse?
Who optioned your?
Renee Zellweger.
How did that happen, Renee Zellweger? That's pretty amazing.
She has good taste.
Oh, absolutely, man. We're not going to argue
nothing
with
happened, and she's a wonderful person, but that actually did occur. It was like the gods of show business somehow opened up and smiled at me, and that's what happened. So
wait, so how did you meet Renee? How did that happen?
I don't want to talk about my relationship with Renee. I just don't want to do it. She's a really private person. I prefer.
No, I'm not asking that, but I'm saying how did she come to become aware of your book?
All right.
I mean,
she went to see my off-Broadway show called Talk Show Confidential: Confessions of a Talk Show Host, which ran for 6 years at the Triad Theater, and it ran for like once. First, it was once a week, and then it was like once a month. But it ran during a 6-year period, and she was a neighbor of mine. And I said, I'd love you to see my show. So she came, and she loved it.
wow.
And she said, wow, your life is like a movie, because it is a completely autobiographical show with true things that have happened.
Well, you've interviewed everybody. Tell the audience some of the people that you've interviewed, which are classics like Natalie Wood and Frank Sinatra. I mean,
Jesse, I believe I interviewed you once. I believe.
Yes, you did.
The most recent person I interviewed was Bob Costas. I have a podcast like you do called Trap Live. So recently, I've interviewed Bob Costas, Bobby Rydell, Judy Gold, Tom Dreesen. On my Food Network show, I interviewed Sophia Loren, David Cassidy, Evander Holyfield.
You have interviewed the who's who of the entertainment world. Do you remember when we first met?
Didn't we meet in St. Lucia?
No, that was after. You know where we first met, but we didn't really get to know each other. But that was where we first laid eyes on each other. It was true love.
I remember the moment well. I mean, I'm the guy who wrote a book called At First Sight.
Well, I don't want to have to get your pair of spectacles, but I'm talking about Morton Downey Jr.
Of course.
1988, I came on that show. It was my first year as a journalist, and I remember you standing there with your clipboard and having to conduct this crazy crowd. You were the guy who started this whole audience that led to like the Jerry Springer show and all this, the angry.
Yeah,
it was the normal feel of the world, mad as hell.
Morton Downey Jr. Was an extremely seminal breakthrough show. And it was one of the things that people forget about that was the Morton Downey Jr. show essentially was a crazy host with serious guests, whereas the Jerry Springer show was a normal host with really crazy guests.
Oh yeah.
But one of the
you've had a couple of crazy guests. We'll get into that a little later. But
yeah.
I remember some. And you know what's amazing about you? You always stay calm.
Oh. What options do I have? Listen, right now, here I am on your show, plugging my book mercilessly.
Can you say that word again, man? I want you to say it 3 times fast. Mercilessly.
You know that 3 weeks ago, Jesse, the New York Times. Now, I know you don't read the New York Times.
I read the New York Times, Bill. I'm an adult.
I know. We have a neighbor. We have a neighbor here. The guy is a multi-millionaire, and he refuses to read the New York Times because he disagrees with their editorial.
Well, they become so political.
Wait a second. What about the science section? What about the art section? What about the whole rest of the paper? No. It's editorial.
I can't stand the New York Times. Get away.
The New York Times 3 weeks ago said, an author releasing a book now, and that would apply to me, is facing insurmountable odds. I mean, I had 3 events that would have sold 500 books in the first month, all canceled. Anyway,
yeah.
So it's rough.
But anyway, it's good. No, but it's good. Listen, it's great that you have. It's great that you have this.
Putting me through here. What you're putting me through.
No, but it's great that you're able to put out a book that can make us laugh. It's a book that can take our mind off this madness that surrounds us every single day.
I was thinking the other day, I have not had a day job like where you go into an office and you have to be there every day and work all day since 1990. Since 1991.
Wow.
Ever since that, well, I've had a lot of jobs since then.
Right.
I worked on the Food Network for 10 years. Just a lot. But the last job, was Court. I was executive producer of something called Court TV for Steve Brill.
Wow.
I did it 2 years, and the Court TV evolved into True, TRU, True Television. So you don't hear of Court TV anymore.
Pick 3 icons that you've interviewed and tell me why you'll never forget those interviews and what made them so special.
Okay, Frank Sinatra. I'll never forget the interview because I love Frank Sinatra. And there he was.
I broke the story of his death.
Excuse me?
I broke the story of his death. My client.
Yes, you told me that. I remember.
Armin Deutsch, he was one of the Leopold and Loeb. He was the child that they were aiming to kidnap and murder and to get the money. And he didn't go home the day that the same path that he was taking every day. And his father found his Sears Roebuck, but he was having dinner with Barbara Sinatra when he had the fatal coronary and drove her in his Rolls Royce at age 85 years old, speeding through red lights. And he called me at 1 a.m. and he was like, Douglas Fairbanks Sr., Jesse, wake up. It's Armand. I'm like, Armand, I'm in a coma. What's the matter? He goes, Frank's dead. I'm like, Frank who? Sinatra, dummy.
It's a big story.
I told my Sinatra one. You tell me yours.
Well, I'll tell you I'm going to give you like a 1-minute version. So I have a whole show I do about Frank Sinatra called Memories of Sinatra. I've done it all over the world. And it involves telling stories about Frank's career, some videos of Frank singing, clips of my interview with Frank, requests from the audience, me singing requests from the audience.
So what was your observation of the man when you're sitting in, I know you disarm people when you interview them, which is your greatest gift.
Well,
they feel so comfortable around you.
Here, let me just tell you the story. So my parents like big band music and I like rock and roll. I was a teenager. I was really interested in seeing what Frank Sinatra was like. My parents played his records and things, and this was a period of time when rock and roll and the Great American Songbook really coexisted on the radio. And so I snuck in the early 60s dressed as a busboy to the 500 Club in Atlantic City, New Jersey to see Frank Sinatra. Now, that's a whole story that I tell in the show. And as a result of seeing Frank that night, I became a huge fan. I fell in love with Frank Sinatra, and I started listening to his albums and getting all the albums and learning his songs and everything like that. So also, and I went to see him as often as I could, I started having a dream. And the dream was that it was a recurring dream, like a couple times a year. It's a wonderful feeling. I'm sitting across from Frank Sinatra and we're just talking, just like I'm talking to you, Jesse. And so I would say years are going by, I had the dream, and it was always a wonderful dream. So get this, it's Easter weekend, 1975, and I'm set on Friday, Good Friday, to go to Las Vegas to join some friends of mine, and we've already got it set up that we're going to see Elvis Presley first show and Frank Sinatra late show.
Wow.
I've been blessed with a big life.
What an iconic evening.
I never pulled back. I go for it. I never pulled back.
Don't hold back now, Bill.
The morning I woke up on that Friday, I had to go in and do midday and then race to the airport to fly to Las Vegas on Friday. Thursday night, went to sleep, and I woke up in the morning, like 6:30, just having had an extremely intense version of my recurring dream of sitting down talking to Frank Sinatra. It was so intense that I felt that it was a precognitive dream, that the dream was telling the future. I was convinced of it. So I went in to perform the midday show, and I said to Paul Noble, who's still alive and remembers this, I said, Paul, as you know, I'm going to Vegas this weekend. I just have this feeling that I'm going to meet Frank while I'm out there, and he's going to come and do midday. It happened. It happened. There's one. That's one story. That's it.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
Listen, since you're so psychic, can you tell me what my day's going to be like tomorrow?
Tomorrow, it's not going to be a good day for you.
Oh, man.
No. After I wrote the first draft of this book, I thought, this was funny, really funny. But the only person who had heard any of it was Jane, which I would read to her. I got 8 friends of mine, and I made a deal with them. I said, I'm going to send you the electronic manuscript, first draft, and I'll take you to dinner. We have 2 months here. And I want you to read the book as a favor to me. I know it's a lot to ask. I'll take you to dinner at any restaurant you want. And at that dinner, I want you to tell me your absolute honest appraisal of the book. Because I don't want to waste my time, but I really thought it was working, right? And it's comedy. The whole book is a satire. It's like 285 pages of comedy writing. And I began my career in comedy. So I went back to my roots. All 8 people, Jesse, said, Bill, to laugh out loud funny. I haven't laughed reading a book for a long time. All 8. So I went back and I punched it up. I polished it up. So I'm happy to say that the book has been hailed by the critics as laugh out loud funny.
People need to know that you worked with Jay Tarsis, who is behind Bob Newhart and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. You know what funny is.
And Jay Tarsis, I was their manager. I began my career launching the sketch comedy team of 2 men, Tom Patchett and Jay Tarsis, who were co-workers.
Amazing. They were 2 of the most classic shows ever. Right.
So we were all working at Armstrong. We quit our jobs after I got them on the Merv Griffin Show. I was their manager.
And you know what? My next guest for my next show is Dr. Jeffrey Gurian, who's an amazing guy, and you are in his documentary. Yeah, Jeffrey just sent me a text and aren't you going to ask Bill? Aren't you going to ask? Thank you, Bill. It was really great having you on.
What about conspiracy theories?
They're going to have to figure that out for themselves on this episode.
Great to hear.
Actually, the conspiracy theory is maybe you weren't really here at all.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, good luck, Jesse. Great to see you.
Thank you, man.
You made
Great
my
to have
day.
you on.
It's been a rough
you
day.
made my day. Hey, by the way, I just found out you're going to have an amazing day tomorrow, too.
Hey, Jane, I might get lucky tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Too much information. All right, man. Bye-bye. All right. Another episode of The Alarmist Conspiracy Theories and Coffee. Was that really Bill Boggs on the show? Was the dog doing all the talking? Tune in and you're going to find out the truth. Thanks for coming today. See you soon. Peace.